I'm Phyllis Jackson. Thanks for joining us for Stay at Home Connect.
If you were out protesting last night, you probably need to go get a COVID test this week, because there's still a pandemic in America that's killing Black and brown people at higher numbers.
Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms sharing concerns about the potential for new COVID-19 cases. She echoes the voices of medical professionals who are also worried about an increase in coronavirus due to protests. Demonstrations were sparked by the death of George Floyd, who was killed while under police custody in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Doctors are strongly encouraging protesters to wear face masks to protect themselves and those with whom they will come in contact, as large assemblies like demonstrations make social distancing difficult, if not impossible. A small Northwestern University study finds that COVID-19 may attack the placentas of pregnant women. 16 women were studied. One suffered a miscarriage. The remaining 15 delivered healthy babies, but 12 were diagnosed with malperfusion, a condition that limits blood flow between the mother and fetus. 6 had placental blood clots. I spoke with pathologist and lead author of the study, Dr. Jeffrey Goldstein.
One, we think our maternal outcomes are pretty good. Two, in women that have more severe coronavirus disease or have other comorbidities or problems with their pregnancy, we don't know, we can't really say what that looks like.
Dr. Goldstein says women need closer monitoring. A larger study will be launched to look at pregnant women with underlying conditions. Atlanta City Council member Amir Faroqi surveying damages to several businesses in District 2 following recent protests.
That's going to do it for Stay at Home Connect. Have a safe evening.
Can one girl in a small town, an architect in a major city, and a suburban high school coach shape the future of the United States? Yes, they can. Because every 10 years, the census gives us that power. You can shape your future by responding to the 2020 census. Where do we need new roads to make our lives easier? Where will new school programs help our children thrive? Where could a new health clinic benefit neighborhoods? The 2020 census will inform these decisions and shape how billions of dollars will be distributed to communities like yours each year. And in 2020, you can respond to the census online, by phone, or by mail. It's easy, safe, and important. Make sure you and everyone you know is counted. Now is the time for you to get involved. Your community needs you. Together, we can educate and excite, inspire, and make sure every voice is heard. Together, we can shape our future.
I'm Phyllis Jackson. Thanks for joining us for Stay at Home Connect.
If you were out protesting last night, you probably need to go get a COVID test this week, because there's still a pandemic in America that's killing Black and brown people at higher numbers.
Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms sharing concerns about the potential for new COVID-19 cases. She echoes the voices of medical professionals who are also worried about an increase in coronavirus due to protests. Demonstrations were sparked by the death of George Floyd, who was killed while under police custody in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Doctors are strongly encouraging protesters to wear face masks to protect themselves and those with whom they will come in contact, as large assemblies like demonstrations make social distancing difficult, if not impossible. A small Northwestern University study finds that COVID-19 may attack the placentas of pregnant women. 16 women were studied. One suffered a miscarriage. The remaining 15 delivered healthy babies, but 12 were diagnosed with malperfusion, a condition that limits blood flow between the mother and fetus. 6 had placental blood clots. I spoke with pathologist and lead author of the study, Dr. Jeffrey Goldstein.
One, we think our maternal outcomes are pretty good. Two, in women that have more severe coronavirus disease or have other comorbidities or problems with their pregnancy, we don't know, we can't really say what that looks like.
Dr. Goldstein says women need closer monitoring. A larger study will be launched to look at pregnant women with underlying conditions. Atlanta City Council member Amir Faroqi surveying damages to several businesses in District 2 following recent protests.
That's going to do it for Stay at Home Connect. Have a safe evening.
Can one girl in a small town, an architect in a major city, and a suburban high school coach shape the future of the United States? Yes, they can. Because every 10 years, the census gives us that power. You can shape your future by responding to the 2020 census. Where do we need new roads to make our lives easier? Where will new school programs help our children thrive? Where could a new health clinic benefit neighborhoods? The 2020 census will inform these decisions and shape how billions of dollars will be distributed to communities like yours each year. And in 2020, you can respond to the census online, by phone, or by mail. It's easy, safe, and important. Make sure you and everyone you know is counted. Now is the time for you to get involved. Your community needs you. Together, we can educate and excite, inspire and make sure every voice is heard. Together, we can shape our future.
I'm Phyllis Jackson. Thanks for joining us for Stay at Home Connect.
If you were out protesting last night, you probably need to go get a COVID test this week. Because there's still a pandemic in America that's killing Black and brown people at higher numbers.
Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms sharing concerns about the potential for new COVID-19 cases. She echoes the voices of medical professionals who are also worried about an increase in coronavirus due to protests. Demonstrations were sparked by the death of George Floyd, who was killed while under police custody in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Doctors are strongly encouraging protesters to wear face masks to protect themselves and those with whom they will come in contact, as large assemblies like demonstrations make social distancing difficult, if not impossible. A small Northwestern University study finds that COVID-19 may attack the placentas of pregnant women. 16 women were studied. One suffered a miscarriage. The remaining 15 delivered healthy babies, but 12 were diagnosed with malperfusion, a condition that limits blood flow between the mother and fetus. 6 had placental blood clots. I spoke with pathologist and lead author of the study, Dr. Jeffrey Goldstein.
One, we think our maternal outcomes are pretty good. Two, in women that have more severe coronavirus disease or have other comorbidities or problems with their pregnancy, we don't know, we can't really say what that looks like.
Dr. Goldstein says women need closer monitoring. A larger study will be launched to look at pregnant women with underlying conditions. Atlanta City Council member Amir Faroqi surveying damages to several businesses in District 2 following recent protests.
That's going to do it for Stay at Home Connect. Have a safe evening.
All right. Good morning, everyone. This is Councilmember Jennifer I. The time is now 10 a.m. on Wednesday, June 3rd, 2020, and today begins our second day of the second full week of the City Council review of the Mayor's proposed fiscal year 21 municipal budget, which we refer to as our budget hearings. Today, I'm joined by my Vice Chair, Howard Shook, of the Finance Executive Committee. We'll do a roll call in a minute to see which other members were able to join us this morning, and members will be cycling in and out of the budget hearings throughout the day as their schedules permit. All of the presentations, budget summaries, and any budget modifications were emailed to council members last night around 9:35 and again this morning at 9:06. So colleagues, please check your email so that you have materials in front of you. The public may view the hearings on Channel 26, Facebook Live, Twitter, the City Council homepage, and YouTube, as well as by listening via the conference bridges. All of the presentations are available on the Council's website, located under Finance Executive Committee's Fiscal Year 21 budget page. We have a very full day today. Our schedule is going to begin with Parks and Rec in a few minutes. Colleagues, if you want to go ahead and pull that up, it's on page 259 of your budget book. At 11, we'll have the Department of Law. At noon, we'll have the Municipal Court. At 1, we'll have the Office of the Public Defender. And at 1:30, we'll have the Office of the Solicitor. And we do try to stick with each of those start times. So I'm going to ask the departments to please limit your presentation to the time allotted so that we don't run over. And if we do finish a little bit early, we will just go on mute and start back up again at the next department's starting time. So before we get going, I'll ask Ms. Kempson-Wright if you will please do a roll call of council members.
Yes. Council President Moore.
I'm here.
Councilmember Smith. Here. Councilmember Faroqi. Councilmember Brown. Councilmember Winslow. Councilmember Archibald. Councilmember Ide. Oh,
Here.
I'm sorry. Councilmember Shook.
Aye.
Councilmember Mazakite,
Here.
Councilmember Hillis, Councilmember Boone,
Present.
Councilmember Overstreet, Councilmember Overstreet,
Present.
Thank you. Councilmember Shepherd,
Present.
Councilmember Bond, Councilmember Westmoreland,
Here.
Councilmember Dickens. Madam Chair, there are a total of 9 attendees online with you at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Kempton-Wright, and thank you, colleagues, for making the time to be here this morning. I'm going to now hand it over to Parks and Recreation, to the Executive Director, LaShondra Burks. I'm going to ask Ms. Burks if you will please introduce the rest of the team you have with you this morning. And generally, departments have been taking about half of their time to give their presentation and leaving about half for Q&A. Doesn't have to be exactly that split, but because you do have an hour allotted, I do know that a few folks have questions, but just wanted to sort of give you a framework there. So good morning, Executive Director Burks, and I will leave it to you to introduce your team and start your presentation.
Okay, thank you. And good morning to everyone, to our Finance Executive Chair, to members of the Finance Committee, Council President Moore, and other members of the Atlanta City Council who are joining today. Thank you for this opportunity to present the Department of Parks and Recreation's fiscal year 21 proposed budget. As mentioned earlier, I am LaShondra Burks, and joining me on the call today are a few members of our leadership team, including Deputy Commissioner Alvin Dodson, the Director of Parks, Doug Voss, and our Business Manager, Henry Thompson. As we look at the summary of operations for the Department of Parks and Recreation, this year's proposed budget is $40.8 million. And based on the proposed FY21 budget, today we will discuss some of our operational areas specifically related to programs, maintenance, acquisitions, and capital improvements. And we will also look at some of our key metrics specifically for youth programming, senior programming, as well as maintenance and operations. And as we look to our fiscal year 20 highlights, I tell you, I just cannot thank the Parks and Rec team enough for all of the hard work that they have done over this last fiscal year. And I would be remiss if I did not give a few highlights by each division. Specifically for Parks, we have assumed the maintenance of several new properties, including the Katherine Johnston Park, Georgia 400 Path, Whetstone Path, and Lake Charlotte, which we were all very supportive of. We have opened several new playgrounds. We are currently at full operations during COVID-19, specifically with our mowing, our garbage, our forestry, and our skilled services. And we have tried very hard over the last couple of weeks on our social media platforms to highlight some of our more unknown parks so that we can encourage residents to visit more than just the popular parks during this COVID-19 era. For the Office of Recreation, I would say prior to COVID-19, we were providing services to right at about 2,000 after-school youth, 1,500 seniors, 3,000 athletes. We had right at 1,400 youth to go through our Learn to Swim program. And last summer, we were able to provide 4,011 youth an experience in Camp Best Friends. And currently, continuing doing this COVID process, we are serving meals to our youth, and to date, we have provided right at 42,600 meals. Our Parks Design team, Westside Park Phase 1A construction is on track for completion soon. We have started the Department of Parks and Recreation master plan process, and even though we are in this COVID area, we are transitioning to a virtual platform in order to keep that master plan process moving. We are also in the process of closing on a new 11-acre property on Danforth Road for a new park in Southwest Atlanta, which is an area of Atlanta with very limited park space. For our golf operations, prior to COVID-19, golf was on track to exceed last fiscal year's rounds and revenues. And even in COVID-19, our golf courses are currently open, not for golf, but they are being used as public green space and walking trails for the Atlanta community. As we look at our proposed budget changes and operational impacts, the budget change specifically in our personnel is a decrease of $2.53 million as a result of defunded vacancies and the reallocation of some positions to additional funding sources. Some of our operational impacts in personnel, we are prioritizing our vacancies. And of course, because of COVID-19, we will hire fewer Campus Friends staff based on required reductions. I know that on last evening during the remote public budget hearing, there were some questions about the Tree Trust Fund, and I think it's appropriate to kind of give you an update on that while we're in our proposed budget changes specifically related to personnel. We currently have 9 full-time positions in the Tree Trust Fund, and of the 9 positions, 5 of them are vacant. What you will see coming in the personnel paper for this fiscal year is we are transferring 2 full-time arborist positions to the general fund budget. We are abolishing 3 full-time vacant positions, and 4 of the positions that are filled will remain in the Tree Trust Fund, specifically the arborist senior, forestry crew supervisor, tree trimmer, and tree trimmer senior. As it relates to our budget changes with the consulting and professional services, we did have a $1.17 million increase in that particular area. And as it relates to our operational impacts, that will provide us additional security services to support the new outdoor pool's free swim operation. It will also allow additional services to support our maintenance operation and additional resources for the summer food program, which has now been transferred from the Office of Human Services to the Department of Parks and Recreation. Under the other budgetary changes, you will see an increase of $446,000 to our GMA, and that is specifically to meet our annual vehicle lease funding. Moving on to operational changes to key programs, I think it was also mentioned last night during the public hearing that this fiscal year's budget maintains our senior and youth services funding and operations. As it relates to our operational changes, we will see some in aquatics and our golf services, mainly because of the new health and safety requirements by CDC because of COVID-19. And as mentioned previously, the management of the summer food program, which is now transferred from the Office of Human Services to the Department of Parks and Recreation. And our last slide actually looks at our key metrics for fiscal year 21. The first metric that you will see that has a major change in it is Camp Best Friends. Based on new COVID guidelines, if we are able to start Camp Best Friends, we would have to take our numbers down from the 4,011 last summer to 500 for this summer. We hope to maintain our performance measures for after-school youth athletics and senior programming, but of course, until we get further into this process, we are not sure if we will have to change those targets as well. We do plan on maintaining all of our parks metrics, specifically around mulching and mowing at 95%, garbage collection at 100%, and our metric for our arborist inspections to be completed within schedule is at 85%. I want to again thank you for your time today, and we are ready and prepared to take any questions that you may have at this time.
Thank you so much, Ms. Burks. And I do just want to send virtual good wishes to Commissioner Dargle for a speedy recovery also. And if he happens to be listening, let him know that we're all thinking of him. We do have some questions from colleagues, and so I'm going to hand it over to Councilmember Andrea Boone first.
Good morning, and thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Burks, I would like to first let you know how grateful the citizens of the City of Atlanta are with your team. You all have taken care of the children that would have been without meals. You all have been on the front line delivering meals with seniors, coordinating with the Mayor's Office of Constituent Services all across the city to make sure that the citizens, the people of Atlanta, have been taken care of. I do have a couple of questions for you, just wanting to make sure that the janitors in your facilities, you are adequately staffed. Make sure that your essential positions will still remain intact. We have realized the value of you all. You all have completely gone above and beyond the call of duty. Your coaches, the rec center managers, the ROAs, Mr. Davidson, Ms. Wimbish, Doug Voss, all of you all have been on the front line. And for that, we are grateful and have a very grateful community. Your responsiveness has been remarkable to those little kids that run up to the door and just want a drink of water or just want milk or just want juice during this time that their parents are not working. So my questions are about your staffing and the janitorial positions to make sure that in this era we remain clean and safe.
Thank you, Councilmember Boone. And I tell you, I thank you for acknowledging the staff and the hard work that they have been doing throughout this particular time. And I certainly join you again in thanking them. As it relates to the custodians in particularly, we are still looking to fund all of our custodians. Currently, we have a total of 17 custodians, and we also participate in the citywide contractor services where we have 21 custodians from there. We currently have 2 vacancies for custodians, and all of those vacancies are scheduled to be filled in this particular budget process, as well as all of our essential positions. So we feel confident that even with a decrease, we still feel confident that we will be able to maintain all of our essential positions to operate.
Okay. The senior programming, that will operate at optimum speed once we get back open?
Yes, their funding still remains for our senior programs, and as you stated, once we're able to open and follow all of the new CDC guidelines, we will be able to service seniors again.
And what about your transportation, the maintenance of your vehicles? And as you saw this week when some of the workers had to go out and deliver because PAL was not able, those vans and those trucks are essential to the community.
Yes, those will maintain as well. And as mentioned, we did receive an increase in our GMA, which is the funding source that helps to maintain and the leases and purchases of our current vehicles.
Okay. Just curious, how many children do you think you all have fed over this pandemic?
So over this pandemic, we have issued out right at about 20, let me go back to my notes. We have issued out right at about 26,400 meals between breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
And which centers do they disperse from exactly? And I understand pizza at ML King today.
And so we currently disperse, we do breakfast and lunch from 8 recreation centers, and we do dinner from 19 recreation centers. We received a call and a partnership with Gooder and Papa John's, who also wanted to assist and give back to the youth who we are serving. On yesterday, they served pizza at 3 of our recreation centers. They're doing 2 today and 2 tomorrow as well.
Again, thank you, Ms. Burks. If you have any other concerns, please bring those to our attention. Of course, we don't want to get to December and the end of the year and have issues with anything in our rec centers. You all have done a wonderful job. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member.
Thank you, Councilmember Boone. Next, we're going to move to Councilmember J.P. Matsakite, and then the lineup will be Overstreet and then Shepard.
Thank you, Chairwoman Ide. And Ms. Burks, thank you for what you and all the Parks team are doing, especially during this pandemic, to be sure that we do have safe places to go and be outside and recreate and be strong. I really appreciate your team's flexibility and efforts in opening up the golf courses to be sure that we have some safe space to socially distance and be outside. So thank you very much for that. I had a question with regard to the golf operations and when they do resume. I know that we had not had an alcohol license for a period of time. Can you give me the status on that and how, if that will come into play during this budget season and how much revenue that might be?
Sure. Thank you, Councilmember. I'm going to ask Deputy Commissioner Alvin Dotson to provide you that information.
Good morning. This is Alvin Dotson, Deputy Commissioner of Parks and Rec. It's an honor to speak before the City Council today. In response to your query, Councilmember Matsakite, currently there's a food and beverage RFP that we were about to put out on the street, but due to COVID-19, we've held that up. As soon as we can release that, we will. One of the issues is there will be site visits involved in that, and we cannot do that while we're under the current 10-person requirement. So as soon as we can move forward, and I believe that may be somewhere around phase 3, we will definitely do that. And as of right now, it's hard to project on how much revenue will come in without actually seeing the bids and what people are proposing.
So is there any revenue baked in to the budget this year for alcohol revenues at the golf courses?
No, there isn't.
Okay, great. So that would be upside if that would occur.
Yes, it would, yes.
Great.
And golf is not part of the general fund, council member. It is paid for. It's almost, it pays for itself.
Great. All right, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Councilmember Matsakite, if I could just add to that, one of the things that we're hoping that the alcohol and food and beverage license will help with the revenue is kind of help us with some of the deficits that we're facing by the golf courses being closed now. I think we are short, and we're losing money as we're not open. So we're hoping that it will help us to regain our footing as well as continue to move forward in our revenue.
Yeah, that would be great, and as well as invest in some of our golf courses. Have to applaud the Parks Department for the job that they've done since taking over the golf courses a couple of years ago. You all picked up and didn't miss a beat, and in fact have improved services and things here. So kudos to you all for that. It just shows that you guys know a thing or two about how to run a golf course, and we just want to be sure that we give you the tools and the investment to make sure that we have what we need to run that golf course. I'm glad the food and beverage could go toward that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Matsakite. Next, we're going to move to Councilmember Overstreet.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Lysandra and the entire Parks and Rec team. I really want to thank you all for always working with my office so diligently. Lysandra, especially, you pick up the phone every time I call and give me the details that I'm asking for and send in the support that I need. And you too, Mr. Dodson, you have been very forthright about taking care of all of the issues that I bring before you. And I just think that, that is something that needs to be commended. I know our budget is stressed, especially this fiscal, this FY21 budget that is upcoming is stressed. And yet you all still take a good look at all of my asks and do your best at providing whatever we are able to do. And I appreciate that. Just wanted you all to know that. I also want to echo what Council Member Boone said. I want to make sure that our senior program stays fortified. They need us more than ever, and I want to make sure that we do not lose that line item. I had planned last year to double it for this year to ask for that, but under these circumstances, I know that that is not something that we can do at this moment, but we will always keep our eye on a way to further strengthen our budget for the seniors of the city of Atlanta, because they really, really enjoy our programming and are in need of us, staying diligent where they're concerned. I have a question about those arborist positions and dealing with the tree fund, tree trust fund. I hear, if I heard you correctly, we were holding on to probably 4 of the positions, and 5 of them would go away somehow, either from defunding them or transferring them to a different area. I'm a little concerned about that because I get a lot of fear from my residents, because we are one of the heaviest tree canopies in Atlanta, and the actual tree ordinance is very jumbled, and our rules and restrictions on trees is very hard for them to navigate. So I really need that particular position, that particular area, to stay as robust as possible, because we need that education and hands-on in the community where our trees are concerned, especially, you said one position, senior position for cutting back trees. We have a lot of overgrowth and invasives that are, destroying the beauty and the life of our trees. I just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing by those trees and those positions too, by our trees and those positions. So can you speak a little more about that?
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Overstreet. If I can speak quickly about seniors, and then I'm going to transition to Director Doug Voss and Parks to talk about the Arborist Division and their work, specifically those that are in the general fund and those that are in the tree trust fund. But if I can say, you are right about our seniors. While we cannot increase what we have funding for right now, at least we are maintaining it and feel confident that we'll be able to continue to service our seniors. I will say we have partnered with Constituent Services on the meal delivery program for our seniors, but our other partnership also is with the Atlanta Hawks cheerleaders, who are going to start next week providing some virtual little exercise with our seniors. So far, we have right at about 200 or so signed up for the first class, and we are excited about that. So we feel as if we're making sure they're getting fed, but now they're ready to move around a little bit, so we are trying to help them with that. And we will continue to think of other creative ways and partnerships to increase and do more with our seniors outside of what this budget calls for. And with that, I will turn it over to Doug Voss to discuss our Arborist Division and the Tree Trust Fund.
Thank you, LaShondra, and good morning, Chairwoman Ide, and all council members. This is Doug Voss, Director of Parks. Thank you for your concern around the Forestry and Arborist Division. These positions were legislated in previous personnel papers to be part of the Tree Trust Fund, and since that time, we have made these decisions to change that in terms of transfer of the arborist positions. Just want to be clear, those positions are here today, Councilwoman Overstreet, and they will continue to do their job. It's just a matter of a transfer of the fund from the Tree Trust Fund to the general fund. In terms of the forestry positions, they do have quite a lot of work, and they're an amazing crew. I couldn't be prouder of them. The crews that we have The timing is good. We will be asking in the new revision if it might be possible for those trust fund positions to be reinstated. We want to make sure that both the legislated on the HR side and on the tree protection ordinance side are aligned. So the timing is good for that. But we still have positions available in our general fund that will be filled. I really can't say enough about the support we've received from the administration and the Chief Operating Officer office in terms of filling position. Commissioner Norman and our HR Director, Danielle Jones, just recently, before COVID struck, we were able to add 2 new personnel to our forestry position through the hiring process. Hiring forestry personnel is a difficult task. They're highly skilled and they're sought after by many in the private sector as well. And just can't say enough. We've got 2 new people on our team right now, and our numbers are looking so much better since they've joined us. So appreciate your concern, and we will continue to track. But right now, we feel like we're in a good position to continue that good work.
And, you know, Mr. Voss, I actually want to thank you for all of your hard work, too. You've been very responsive and helpful in the community, and I just really appreciate that. And thank you for those words of reassurance and letting me know that we really are paying attention to our needs and what we need to do going forward. So thank you for that.
Very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Ide.
Thank you, Councilmember Overstreet. I do just have one more question before I see that Councilmember Boone has her hand up again. But Mr. Voss, while we have you on the tree subject, I just want to make sure I understood what you said. So in this coming fiscal year, we will have the same number of arborists out doing work as we do today, but the funding source will just be different?
Absolutely, that is correct.
Okay. So how many total arborists? So will there be arborists who are still paid out of the Tree Trust Fund and ones that are paid out of Parks and Rec, or is everybody going to be paid out of Parks and Rec?
We have one tree trust position that will remain. It's the arborist senior position, and then the field arborist will be moved to the general fund with this paper. One of them actually technically is already in the general fund, but we'll move the position just to make sure that it's transferred appropriately. But there'll be one in the Tree Trust Fund and 2 in the general fund.
Okay. And I don't know if you will know the answer to this question or not. What other personnel will continue to be funded from the Tree Trust Fund?
There's a pruning crew of 3 in the forestry division, which includes a supervisor, a tree trimmer, and a tree trimmer senior.
Okay, so those 3 plus the senior arborist make 4 tree-related people paid for out of that. Do you know if there are more planning-related people that are getting paid for the Tree Trust Fund, or are there just going to be 4 individuals that are? Because I know that we had some discussion about this last night at our community budget meeting, that there are 7 authorized salaries in the statute, and so that's 4 of them. Do you know if the other 3 are filled from people who are non-parks related people?
They're not parks. I do believe it's with Department of Planning, but I don't have the specifics on that, no.
Okay. Do you feel like you have enough arborists to be, doing, because it is a job in great demand, both on the, servicing the right-of-way trees and other issues that come up. Do you feel like you have enough people to do that work?
We are. We're appropriately staffed. We just want to get the account strings correct, and that's not a problem with us. But right now, they're out doing the job as we speak today, and very happy with their metrics are tracking well. Obviously, with storms and things like that, they get loaded. But right now, they're continuing, and they manage well, and we feel comfortable with the staff we have.
Okay. And did you say you have a vacancy in forestry?
We have vacancies in forestry. We have 1 in the Tree Trust, and we have several in the general fund right now. Like I said, kind of couldn't believe it, but we actually hired 2 excellent candidates earlier this year in 2020 that are already out in the field, and we are currently looking to hire additional. It's a tough field to hire from, but our numbers actually are increasing as we speak.
Okay, and in this fiscal year 21 budget, a lot of departments are not having their vacancies funded, but for these forestry positions, those are funded vacancies that you're in the process of trying to fill?
Yes, forestry is among some of our top critical positions. We worked with the COO's office as well as HR. We've got those positions locked in. We feel good about it.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to turn it back over to Councilmember Boone, followed by Councilmember Westmoreland.
Ms. Ide, did you see my name in the queue? This is Councilmember Shepherd.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, so let's do Shepherd. I did see you, and I just lost track of it. So we'll do Shepherd, then go back to Boone, then Westmoreland.
Thank you, Chairwoman Ide. I'm asking. First of all, I want to say thank you all for everything you all do. Ms. Butler, Senator Butler, I appreciate you, Doug, Alvin, and actually all the folks that I interact with out in the community who are actually cleaning the parks and doing everything they can for the parks. I'm very proud of how we keep our parks up. I do have a question in reference to Pittman Park. There was some redesign of Pittman Park, and the staff who was doing that. Have you all filled those positions yet? Who has taken the place of a couple of people who are involved with that?
Are you referring to, it sounds like you may be referring to our park design team. And
yes.
If so, I'm going to ask Deputy Commissioner Alvin Dotson to answer that. He's under his division.
Once again, Alvin Dotson, good morning. Councilmember Shepherd. Yes, you're referring to our park design director's position. We promoted Keith Hicks to that position. He was already our senior project manager. And then the urban planner position was filled by Tara Buckner, and she came on board in March. So we're slowly just getting everyone acclimated again, but they will be the point people along with Aaron Weiner that will be continuing to shepherd what was going on out there in Pittman Park. And they'll be reaching out to you to work very closely with you.
Okay, so when did that happen? Was that happen right recently, or how when did all those changes happen?
Tara came on board in March, and Keith's promotion, I believe, was effective in April. So it just happened right when COVID-19 struck and right in the middle of COVID-19.
Right. Okay, because there were several things that was going on in my district, and I just wanted to make sure that we wasn't dropping anything on that. And I also want to thank all the folks in the Parks Department and terms of our rec centers, too. They're doing a great job also. So thank you all for your work. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Councilmember Shepherd. All right, we are going to go to Councilmember Boone and then to Westmoreland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Burks, quickly, just wanted to make sure that we do an inventory to make sure that our computers and computer labs and all of the technology is working at optimum speed at our recreation centers. And lastly, the inventory of hand trucks, dollies, make sure that we have adequate supplies. They were used a lot during the pandemic. So, again, if you would check on those equipment, vacuum cleaners, things like that. Thank you so much. That concludes my questions and concerns.
Thank you, Councilmember Boone. We will continue to work closely with AIM and our custodial team on our supplies and PPE and everything. Thank you so much.
Westmoreland. Okay.
Yeah, I am. Thanks. Appreciate it. Thank you, Chair and Commissioner Burks. Appreciate your presentation. 3 quick comments. One, I wanted to echo JP's comments earlier about opening up the golf courses. I've had a chance to walk all 4 of them during the pandemic. Browns Mill and Adams Park are especially unbelievable, and I hope that folks will have a chance to get out and see those in a way that we normally can't when folks are on links. Secondly, I'm optimistic but realistic about our pools opening this summer, but if they do, they're going to be free. And I appreciate you working with Councilmember Overstreet and myself on that, and look forward to having that be permanent so that for sure when pools come back in the summer of 21, everyone will be able to access them. And then in a separate conversation that you and I have had, I appreciate the department's efforts around food, especially toward the end of June and during the month of July as Atlanta Public Schools scales back their summer feeding program before ramping it up again in August. Our ability to stand in the gap and make sure that Atlanta's kids are being fed while they're not in school is really important. And so I appreciate all that you and your team are doing to make sure that that happens during that 6-week stretch. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Councilmember Westmoreland, and thank you all for your support. I can tell you that our golf courses, people are really venturing out and enjoying them, and we are glad to see that. And again, we did have funding, as you mentioned, for keeping the outdoor pools free, whether they open up this summer or next summer. And we look forward to continuing to service all of our youth regarding meals. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Westmoreland. Councilmember Archibong, did you have your hand up?
On the line. Yes, thank you very much. I was not able to hear all the presentation, and so I don't know if you covered the concerns that we've had over the, last few years about the memorandums of agreement with entities that are in our rec centers. So, Ms. Burke, did you cover that at all, or what is the path forward with those?
And so, thank you, Councilmember Archibong. I did not cover that in our budget presentation. We continue to, as you know, we had started pre-COVID-19, specifically for Brownwood. We had looked at, we started doing a community survey, trying to figure out what residents would like to see specifically at Brownwood Recreation Center. And one of the things that we started to get some of the results in, and we will continue to evaluate those. But one of the things that we're looking at as a part of our master plan, our Parks and Recreation master plan, will include partnerships and memorandums of understandings and memorandums of agreements. So we will have more information about that generally coming out of our master plan work, but we should have something soon coming out of our surveys specifically to Brownwood.
Okay, well, I do know that the work has been underway. It's been underway for a while. It is a sensitive area, and I do support partnerships, but I also think that we need to make sure that we are being fair to the neighbors in terms of services and programming, and we need to make sure that we are being fair with our resource in terms of making sure that the use of the resources are equitably available to everyone. So it's a challenging area, and I don't know if it would involve any budget considerations in terms of additional staff or something, or consultants to make this move from something we're looking at to something we're ready to move forward with. So is there a monetary or staffing issue relative to this?
Well, right now, of course, we have the funding in place to pay for our consultants who are working on our Parks and Recreation Master Plan. So that funding is there. As it relates to if something comes out that looks at having additional staff at some of the partner locations, that will be challenging for us based on this current budget. But we will definitely look at the recommendations that come out of the master plan and see how a good pathway forward for us.
I would like to say to Chairman Westmoreland that this has been a conversation that we've been having for years. In every budget, I ask about having staffing at those former centers of hope that no longer have city staffing and programming.
because it is unfair to the residents who would like to have a fully operational rec center. And the fact that it is not in the budget is a point of concern not only for me, but for those citizens who have these issues around how can we activate our rec center. So, Chairman Westmoreland, I think as a committee we need to look at this and challenge the department to be more robust in how they address these issues. So thank you.
Yeah, unmuted just in time to say concern received, and appreciate that, and we will definitely discuss between now and final adoption.
Thank you. That concludes my questions. Thank you. All right, bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Archibong. All right. Anybody else have questions for Parks and Rec? I'm going to give it just a second or two to make sure nobody else wants to raise their hand. If you can't send me a message, just feel free to speak up if you have a question. All right. It looks like that is it. So thank you all so much for the very informative presentation. We'll be following up on that last item and circling back on that. But we really appreciate your time this morning, and I know it takes probably actually more time and energy to put these virtual presentations together. So we really do appreciate it. And we're going to go on mute for about 15 minutes, and then we will be back at 11 with our next presentation. Thank you.
I'm Phyllis Jackson. Thanks for joining us for Stay at Home Connect.
If you were out protesting last night, you probably need to go get a COVID test this week. Because there's still a pandemic in America that's killing black and brown people at higher numbers.
Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms sharing concerns about the potential for new COVID-19 cases. She echoes the voices of medical professionals who are also worried about an increase in coronavirus due to protests. Demonstrations were sparked by the death of George Floyd, who was killed while under police custody in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Doctors are strongly encouraging protesters to wear face masks to protect themselves and those with whom they will come in contact, as large assemblies like demonstrations make social distancing difficult, if not impossible. A small Northwestern University study finds that COVID-19 may attack the placentas of pregnant women. 16 women were studied. One suffered a miscarriage. The remaining 15 delivered healthy babies, but 12 were diagnosed with malperfusion, a condition that limits blood flow between the mother and fetus. 6 had placental blood clots. I spoke with pathologist and lead author of the study, Dr. Jeffrey Goldstein.
One, we think our maternal outcomes are pretty good. Two, in women that have more severe coronavirus disease or have other comorbidities or problems with their pregnancy, we don't know, we can't really say what that looks like.
Dr. Goldstein says women need closer monitoring. A larger study will be launched to look at pregnant women with underlying conditions. Atlanta City Council member Amir Faroqi surveying damages to several businesses in District 2 following recent protests.
That's going to do it for Stay at Home Connect. Have a safe evening.
Can one girl in a small town, an architect in a major city, and a suburban high school coach shape the future of the United States? Yes, they can. Because every 10 years, the census gives us that power. You can shape your future by responding to the 2020 census. Where do we need new roads to make our lives easier? Where will new school programs help our children thrive? Where could a new health clinic benefit neighborhoods? The 2020 census will inform these decisions and shape how billions of dollars will be distributed to communities like yours each year. And in 2020, you can respond to the census online, by phone, or by mail. It's easy, safe, and important. Make sure you and everyone you know is counted. Now is the time for you to get involved. Your community needs you. Together, we can educate and excite, inspire, and make sure every voice is heard. Together, we can shape our future.
I'm Phyllis Jackson. Thanks for joining us for Stay at Home Connect.
If you were out protesting last night, you probably need to go get a COVID test this week. Because there's still a pandemic in America that's killing black and brown people at higher numbers.
Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms sharing concerns about the potential for new COVID-19 cases. She echoes the voices of medical professionals who are also worried about an increase in coronavirus due to protests. Demonstrations were sparked by the death of George Floyd, who was killed while under police custody in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Doctors are strongly encouraging protesters to wear face masks to protect themselves and those with whom they will come in contact, as large assemblies like demonstrations make social distancing difficult, if not impossible. A small Northwestern University study finds that COVID-19 may attack the placentas of pregnant women. 16 women were studied. One suffered a miscarriage. The remaining 15 delivered healthy babies, but 12 were diagnosed with malperfusion, a condition that limits blood flow between the mother and fetus. 6 had placental blood clots. I spoke with pathologist and lead author of the study, Dr. Jeffrey Goldstein.
One, we think our maternal outcomes are pretty good. Two, in women that have more severe coronavirus disease or have other comorbidities or problems with their pregnancy, we don't know, we can't really say what that looks like.
Dr. Goldstein says women need closer monitoring. A larger study will be launched to look at pregnant women with underlying conditions. Atlanta City Council member Amir Faroqi surveying damages to several businesses in District 2 following recent protests.
That's going to do it for Stay at Home Connect. Have a safe evening.
Can one girl in a small town, an architect in a major city, and a suburban high school coach shape the future of the United States? Yes, they can. Because every 10 years, the census gives us that power. You can shape your future by responding to the 2020 census. Where do we need new roads to make our lives easier? Where will new school programs help our children thrive? Where could a new health clinic benefit neighborhoods? The 2020 census will inform these decisions and shape how billions of dollars will be distributed to communities like yours each year. And in 2020, you can respond to the census online, by phone, or by mail. It's easy, safe, and important. Make sure you and everyone you know is counted. Now is the time for you to get involved. Your community needs you. Together, we can educate and excite, inspire and make sure every voice is heard. Together, we can shape our future.
All right. Good morning, everyone. This is Councilmember Jennifer Ide. It's now 11 a.m. on Wednesday, June 3rd, 2020. We are in our second day of our second full week of our budget hearings. We started off this morning with the Department of Parks and Recreation. We will start with the Department of Law in just a few minutes. For the public that is listening in or viewing, if you're listening in and you want to watch the presentations, those are being broadcast on Channel 26, Facebook Live, Twitter, the City Council homepage, and YouTube. The presentations and other budget materials are also available on the Council website, located under the Finance Executive Committee Fiscal Year 21 budget page. I'm joined this morning by my Vice Chair, Howard Shook, of the Finance Executive Committee. We had about 9 members of Council who were online with us this morning, and if there's anybody who has joined us since this morning's roll call, let me know and I will recognize you. Ms. Kempson-Wright, can you just let us know from our earlier roll call who we have online with us?
Yes. Currently you have Council President Moore, Councilmember Smith, Councilmember I, well, you're Councilmember I, Councilmember Shook, Councilmember Mazakite, Councilmember Boone, Councilmember Overstreet, Councilmember Shepherd, Councilmember Westmoreland, and I believe we had a few more that may have joined. Councilmember Winslow is on the line as well.
Archibong.
And Archibong.
All right. Anyone else who has been able to join us? Council members will cycle in and out throughout the day as their schedules permit. So just send me a note if you want me to recognize that you have joined us. We are going to start off our next session. It's with the Department of Law. To my colleagues or those following along online, the Law Department's budget is on page 189 of the budget book. And so this morning I'm going to welcome our City Attorney, Nina Hickson. I'm going to ask Ms. Hickson to introduce the rest of her team, and then, Ms. Hickson, you may go ahead and kick off your presentation.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair, Madam Council President, council members, citizens of Atlanta, fellow employees. I want to thank you for this opportunity to present our budget on behalf of the hardworking members of the Law Department. I am honored to serve as legal counsel for the City of Atlanta, and I'm proud to lead a very hardworking, industrious, and committed group of individuals. I hope that everybody listening is continuing to stay safe, remembering that there's still a pandemic, and I want to express my personal appreciation to my staff that has continued to work and be responsive during this time of transition. At this time, I'd like to introduce my co-presenters. First is Ms. C. Alicia Frazier, who is the Managing Deputy City Attorney. The second individual is Mayshir Bailey, who's our Director of Finance and Accounting. And our third presenter is Ty White, our Business Manager. Last year, you will recall that we began the process of restructuring the Law Department and changing the orientation or approach to how we as legal officers for the city practice law. It has been my philosophy that as in-house counsel, our role is to act as partners and facilitators in terms of helping our clients accomplish those things which they are seeking to accomplish within the bounds of the law. And so as a result, we identified certain key values which would color our approach to how we practice law and attempted to be professional in terms of our delivery. Are the slides up?
I am not seeing the slides yet. Can our IT folks get the slides up?
Okay. We can go to the first slide about our key values. Thank you. The manner in which we approach our tasks is informed by the key values we've identified for our organization, those being integrity, being good stewards of the allocated funds, partnering with our client departments, investing in our employees, protecting the city's assets, litigation prevention, and working in a team-oriented or collaborative environment. First bubble, please. As a result, in restructuring the department, we determined that each department, board, and agency of the city should have an assigned attorney or team of attorneys. Our second goal was to make sure that we are closely aligned with our clients so that we can understand our clients' goals and find creative and innovative solutions to help them achieve their goals. Our third premise is that lawyering means more than just saying no. Having practiced over 30 years, one of the early lessons that I learned from one of my former bosses is that it takes no talent for a lawyer to tell a client no, that the real talent is in helping one's client meet one's goals, but doing so in a way that's within the law and meeting the needs of the client. The other thing that we attempt to do, or what we attempted to do in our restructuring, was to reorganize our practice areas to protect the city's assets and to create efficient legal operations. We also promised that we would closely monitor outside counsel expenses and attempt to decrease spending in that regard. So you will hear more about our specific strategies in that regard. And admittedly, we have worked very hard to attempt to meet this goal. We still have some work to do, but we will talk in more specific detail about some of the things that we've done. We've also worked to standardize our policies and operating procedures to not only maximize productivity and reduce expenses, but also to create a framework such that it really doesn't matter who is sitting in the seat of city attorney. What's important is that you have a means of operating that's going to best serve the city. We additionally have worked to recruit and retain top legal talent. Part of that process is also our commitment to their development by, we created and did evaluations of each of our employees this year. We've also developed professional development plans for them, creating paths of progression within the various job fields to foster their growth and development. And then finally, we have used technology to provide for efficiencies and reduce expenses, and we will talk in detail about one aspect of the use of technology, which we sought appropriations for last year, and we've been able to follow through and actually develop and engage a case management system. Next slide. In restructuring the law department, there were three areas that I focused on, that being money or resources that would result in a reduction in spending on outside counsel, saving taxpayer dollars by protecting city assets through preventive training and strategic settlements and litigation. Secondly, again, technology. And third, focusing on people, that is the members of the law department, the city staff, as well as city officials, and then finally the citizens of Atlanta. As it relates to money, over the past year, we have spent time deliberately working on the reduction of outside counsel rates by partnering with outside counsel firms to reduce the rates, to come up with governmental rates where possible, to also look at some alternative types of billing arrangements, including flat fees, blended fees, and other mechanisms. Another approach was to attempt to engage and use more small, women-owned, and minority firms. And we will continue to increase those partnerships in an effort to not only get good work, to give those opportunities, but also to reduce expenses, which is not to suggest that where we need expertise that in any way we are trying to not provide quality service, because we are. I don't think that reaching out to minority and small firms or women's firms means that one loses quality, one does not. But we will do those things that we need to do in order to make sure that we are providing the best quality representation to the city. Finally, this year we began the process and intend to finalize our complete overhaul of our outside counsel guidelines to solidify the fee structure, but also to make sure that the rules of engagement are very clear. One of the things that we found was that in the immediate past, when matters were turned over to outside counsel, that there was not a lot of monitoring of those activities going on. And we have found that in monitoring and making sure that outside counsel is working hand in hand with our staff, that we're able to minimize costs, we're able to make sure that efficiencies are met, and it results in a reduction of legal expenses. Among the other cost-saving measures, just so that you're aware of them, the law department provided counsel related to the approval of the refinancing of $14.7 million in equipment leases for the Department of Watershed Management, which resulted in interest savings of $479,000 for the department. We also provided legal guidance on the issuance of $103.1 million in water and wastewater revenue refunding bonds. The refunded amount represents $39.9 million in savings to the city of Atlanta. During fiscal year 20, we aided in the recovery of $4,335,781, those being from FEMA and GEMA, as well as scooter fines, as well as outstanding occupational taxes. And then from the standpoint of technology, as we asked last year for additional funding to get a case management system, we worked this year and we have obtained the services of a web-based case management, document management, calendaring, and timekeeping system called Legal Files. This all-in-one system allows us to centralize our workflow, to standardize processes, and to provide real-time access and reporting capabilities. This has been a major win for us, and Ms. Ty White, who is our business manager, will be able to talk to you in detail about what the benefits of that particular activity have been. But we're very, very happy about that progress, as well as the fact that we're able to leverage it and to offer the usage of this tool to other departments. The third area that I think we'll already move to the next slide, but I do want to say before we move on, a third area that I focused on had to do with the people in our department and strategies for their development. We also, as a part of providing services to the city, have encouraged our employees to provide not only internal training for staff in terms of labor and employment practices, as well as the SAVE and E-Verify system, but we've also had staff to participate in providing professional training to colleagues in areas related to land use, taxation, as well as equal employment opportunity laws and other human resource related training. As it relates to being good stewards of our allocated funds. The next slide will talk about the general fund and what has happened since my becoming the city attorney. The general fund trend has shown a reduction in spending. The first two columns show an 11% decrease in general fund spending from fiscal year 18 to fiscal year 19. The third column, admittedly, fiscal year 20 shows a slight increase of 5%, which is attributable to litigation primarily in the area of employment litigation. And these are cases that preceded my coming in 2018 and typically have to do with matters that occurred prior to that time that are just now coming to trial. And so we saw a slight increase in outside counsel spending in that regard. However, because of some strategies that we've undertaken in terms of the restructuring of the litigation department, the more aggressive and earlier involvement of our counsel, meaning our in-house counsel in terms of litigation, the use of alternative dispute resolution processes, it is our belief that in fiscal year 21 you will see a reduction in the general fund as relates to our litigation expenses. Additionally, we have brought in all of the personal injury cases such that should also result in a reduction of expenses related to outside counsel and litigation. It's our intention to continue that trend. The right side of the slide that's before you shows the spending trend in the enterprise fund, and we are happy to say that over the past 2 fiscal years, we have shown a demonstrative decrease in the enterprise fund spending in both aviation as well as watershed, attributable to our managing outside counsel expenses as well as bringing more work in-house. And so we can expect that trend to continue in fiscal year 21. The next slide has to do with the reduction of settlements and other litigation payouts. As I indicated, we have restructured our litigation department and have gotten more involvement earlier. We actually, one of the key things we did was to do more of an alignment with our claims department, with our litigation department, because what comes through claims gives us an idea of trends as well as areas where we can do some or offer some recommendations for prevention or litigation prevention or attempt to handle claims in a more timely manner, which again results in a reduction of litigation expenses. I think that you will see on this slide that we had a backlog of claims, but in fiscal year 20, we've seen a 64% reduction in that backlog. We started with over 1,000 cases backlog. We now are down to 397 pending claims. So we are doing extremely well in that regard, and you will find that when we're able to resolve claims more timely, that it tends to result in a reduction of litigation. We also have experienced a decrease in litigation settlements from fiscal year 19 to fiscal year 20, and anticipate that the payouts will also decrease as we become more aggressive in our litigation approach, as well as making more effective use of alternative dispute resolution methods, including mediation and arbitration. I'd like to highlight some of the successes in 20 that I think have also resulted in reduction of expenses, and also speak to the quality of attorneys in the legal department. One of the cases is the Crowlin case, which is a part of the Calhoun progeny, and these were cases related to the Section 1983 cases related to police activity. But we were successful This was a jury trial where we found success. It was based on a 2014 arrest of the plaintiff in Woodruff Park for disorderly conduct. The plaintiff alleged she was arrested because the officer did not like what she was saying, and she alleged it was a violation of her First and Fourth Amendment rights. In February of this year, our in-house counsel, led by Alicia White Bullman, got a jury victory in this case and determined that the officer's arrest of the plaintiff was justified and delivered a complete defense verdict. Additionally, the court awarded costs to the city. That's extremely significant and speaks to the quality of the work that's being done, as well as resulting in less expenses because we didn't have to use outside counsel to try that particular case. Another matter of significance is the Express Spa case, which you all are familiar with. This case had been going on probably for 7 years and had been handled primarily by outside counsel at an expense of $1.5 million. This year, we brought in the work to do the mediation of the matter, and it was handled by exclusively staff counsel. We spent 28 hours mediating the matter, so it was over a period of about 4 days, but it was all in-house, which resulted in a savings of over $30,000, and we were able to bring a successful conclusion to this matter after 7 years. And so it's that kind of work that we are attempting to do to reduce expenses. Finally, we have created a labor and employment practice group which has partnered with the Department of Human Resources to provide education to departments on employment-related issues, which is our hope will result in a reduction in lawsuits and financial exposure. This is an area where we saw an increase in terms of our outside counsel spending because of having to deal with litigation related to employment matters. But in addition to being able to provide a staff of support to human resources, we also have been able to effectively work with the EEOC in pretrial matters and resolve matters prior to them going to trial. And they've actually been very complimentary of the city's involvement in this process. We're fortunate to have individuals who have worked for the EEOC in the past, as well as other federal employment agencies who are very well aware of the tools that can be used to try to limit the city's exposure in this regard. The next slide talks about the proposed budget for fiscal year 21. And just at a very high level, the overall proposed budget shows a slight reduction in the amount. Fiscal year 20, we worked very hard to try to restructure the department and be good stewards of the funds allocated. We managed our head count during the year such that we could return some positions. So we have identified 9 proposed abolishments, 5 in the general fund, as well as 1 in the aviation fund and 3 in the watershed fund. At this time, to talk about the numbers specifically, I would like to turn it over to Nasir Bailey, who's our Director of Accounting and Finance.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney. Good morning, Madam Chair, and to all the members of the Atlanta City Council. My name is Nasir Bailey, and I am the Director of Finance and Accounting for the Department of Law. In terms of personnel expenses, there's a proposed decrease in personnel costs of $1.4 million, down 15% from $9.7 million in FY20 to $8.3 million in FY21. The general fund proposed personnel decrease is $536,000. The aviation fund proposed personnel decrease is $295,000. And the watershed fund proposed personnel decrease is $608,000. In terms of purchase contracted services, there's a proposed increase in professional services of $201,499,000, an increase of 2% from $12.6 million adopted in FY20 to $12.8 million proposed in FY21. The proposed budgeted amount includes key funding for contractual obligations the legal files document management system, professional services, as well as staff training. In terms of supplies and other costs, we are proposing a flat budget for for FY21. We do expect a moderate impact to the supplies line item due to COVID-19 safety measures. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Madam City Attorney Nina Hickson.
Thank you, Ms. Bailey. At this time, I'd like to have our business manager, Ty White, to speak about the case management system that I spoke to you about, that we asked for last year and have been able to implement this year. Ms. White?
Do we need to unmute Ms. White?
We need to unmute Ms. White, or she can hit 5* to be unmuted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
All right. Well, thank you again, Madam City Attorney, and good morning, Madam President and other Atlanta City Council members. My name is Taya White, and I'm the business manager for the Department of Law. As Ms. Hickson mentioned, Legal Files is an all-in-one web-based system that handles case management, document management, calendaring, and timekeeping for our department. It ensures real-time visibility of the status and details of each matter or file. It integrates with Microsoft Office and Adobe Acrobat, applications with which the staff is already familiar, to maximize ease and efficiency. It streamlines data entry through a single, intuitive, and easy-to-use platform, and it allows us to track time spent handling those matters, as well as the associated cost allocation for purposes of annual reporting. Our legal operations team spent several weeks collaborating with both the Legal Files training team and members of each of the law department's practice areas to configure the system to meet our needs, and were able to successfully go live with the system on April 21st of this year. As Ms. Hickson mentioned, we have also begun to partner with other departments within the city to leverage the system for better organization, tracking, and reporting of their projects and matters as well. And now I will return the presentation back over to Madam City Attorney Nina Hickson. Thank you.
Madam Chair and members of Council President Moore, that concludes our presentation for this morning. We're available to answer questions.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hickson and the rest of your team. Colleagues, raise your virtual hand, send me a message if you have a question for the Department of Law. Let me give people just a minute, Ms. Hickson, to see if anybody has a question. I have a question that I should know, and probably the budget explains it, but just to clarify, within the general fund, is there any charging back to departments for either legal fees or for cost of settlement?
There is not, Councilmember Ide, and the Finance Department would have to give you a better explanation, but there is no charging back. But there is a study that is done on an annual basis by a consultant where there is a formula developed as it relates to indirect costs. But Finance can probably better explain what that process is, but I believe that is how they attempt to deal with the cost of the legal department providing legal services to the various departments.
Okay, and is there, tracking of some sort, I'm sure, to know which departments, where we see trends in certain litigation leading to cost of legal fees and settlement costs coming out of particular areas of the city? I'm assuming that we do something to close the loop with those department heads and their teams on lessons learned on we continue to have the same issues arising and associated costs to the city.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is. Ms. Fraser, do you want to address that?
Yes, ma'am. As Ms. Hickson
stated in her presentation, we were able to get legal files installed, and we went live in April. For the prior 2 years, we have not been able to track and to identify those trends. So that's why we're very excited that we now have a document management system. But to answer your question, even without legal files, we have been able to identify trends, and our practice group teams within the law department, our litigation division works with them to help identify trends so that they can provide training to the client department and hopefully to help minimize the city's exposure to the type of trends that we're seeing so that we don't even get to the litigation phase.
But we've always been able to identify the areas or where we've had litigation or where there have been particular areas of concern and to express those to the various departments. It's just our goal to do it in a more efficient manner with the legal files, as well as the fact that we have advice and counsel attorneys who are assigned to each of the departments so that they can make them aware of the trends that we see in terms of litigation.
All right, thank you. I'm going to call on Councilmember Archibald.
Great, thanks. I was trying to remember my question. It reminded me of a post I saw on Facebook where a guy was talking, and he said, where was I going with this comment? And then he says, I don't know, but I know I love bacon. So I do love bacon, but I also think I remember my comment, too. The question around, should we continue to be self-insured, or should we look at some sort of liability or some sort of insurance coverage? Kind of to piggyback on the comment made by Ms. I, we sort of know the areas where there's a risk, and would it be cost-effective for the city for us to be less self-insured and more covered with insurance?
I don't have a...
Oh, you got it?
Well, yes, go ahead, Ms. Frazier.
I was going to respond, Ms. Councilwoman Archibald, that is a decision that's made in risk management primarily, and is under the finance department, but it's certainly things that we are beginning to think about and talk about with that client, not about, whether we self-insure, but what are they looking at and what analysis are they making, and the law department will certainly provide the legal counsel to them as they look at that issue.
Okay, and I can see that alignment. I wondered if it would be a question that would have overlapping jurisdictions. So I think it's an interesting conversation that we need to continue to have. Now I'm back to bacon again. For the second question, I do appreciate the way that the attorneys are able to keep siloed their communications with the council, and the representation that we are getting is measurably different than it's been in the past, and for that I do appreciate the effort that you've done. So if I think of my second question, I'll just ask it offline. But thank you very much for all that you do for the city. Your whole team is doing a wonderful job.
Thank you very much, Council Member. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilmember Archibald. All right, last call for the law department. Colleagues, shoot me a message or speak up if anybody has a question. All right, hearing no other questions from City Council members, thank you so much to the Law Department for this presentation. Thank you for your, always for your great service to us. I'll second Ms. Archibald's comment that I really do feel like when I call on the Law Department, they are, my lawyer, giving me advice and helping me figure out a way to hopefully get to yes on what it is that I want to do, but always giving me extremely competent legal advice. So I appreciate that. And we are going to wrap up a little bit early. It's 11:35. We're going to take a 25-minute break, and we will be back at noon for the municipal court. So thank you again, Ms. Hickson, and to your entire team, and have a great rest of the afternoon.
Thank you very much.